Production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Retiring Chief Public Defender Stephen Bush, tonight on Behind the Headlines. I'm Eric Barnes, publisher of the Memphis Daily News. Thanks for joining us. I am joined tonight by the Chief Public Defender for Shelby County, Stephen Bush. Thanks for being here again.
Thank you, Eric. It's nice to be here.
Along with senior reporter Bill Dries. You are retiring. You've announced your retirement. You're going to be in office a little bit longer. Talk about this process first of retiring. The office is appointed by the Shelby County Mayor.
That's right.
And confirmed by the County Commission.
In Shelby County, the responsibility of nominating a chief defender falls to the county mayor and has to be approved by the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, so you're not leaving anytime soon necessarily. You're going to wait until Lee Harris takes office. Is that the plan?
Right, right.
Okay.
I made this announcement of my plans to step down before the election so that the incoming mayor would, have enough time and that this would be a priority so that we can get this selection right.
And you've been a public defender for 27 years?
Oh, heavens, yes. For now, more than half of my life. I'm 54, and I've been doing this work for 27 years. And there's a pretty good argument to be made that no one should do the work of public defense for that long. So we've been looking forward to this transition for some time. And
yeah, and we'll come back to some of the transition and some of why you did this, but in that career, either as the chief for the last 8 years or at any time, your best moment or a best moment as a public defender?
There have been so many best moments. I never planned to be a public defender, and when former mayor, chief public defender A.C. Wharton hired me, he wanted this long commitment of 3 years, which seemed like an extraordinary long period of time. It's been a remarkable place to practice law and to learn the craft and to be a part of the community. It's been the honor of my life to serve as chief public defender, and I'm deeply grateful for Mayor Luttrell for placing that trust in me. And we've done a lot of work over the last 8 years to change a lot of things that needed to be improved so that the work of this 100-year-old law firm is ready for its next generation of service.
What makes, I'm going to come back to my question, what makes a good moment? What makes a good day when you're the public defender? Because I think most people would think that it's probably mostly rough moments and rough days.
It is rough moments. You might think it's an acquittal or that, but there's something about being able to do this work with people who are in a very difficult spot, that when they feel and know that they've been treated with dignity and respect and have the right advice so they can make the right decisions, whether it's a plea agreement or going to trial, and to see that unfold day after day, that's what's rewarding about this work.
And then last I'll turn to Bill, but worst moments. What are the really bad moments?
It doesn't matter how good you are as a lawyer when you're under such an overwhelming, crushing caseload and you can't do what you need to do to meet your ethical requirements to your clients. That's been the experience in our office and in many offices. Public defense is broken just about everywhere, particularly in the South, outside of the federal system. And so the work we've done over the last 8 years is to reposition and to do the change work to actually fix those things. One of the things we've been able to do that I'm proud of is increasing the funding for the office. We've gone from $7 million a year in recurring funding to 14 over the last 8. And that's good, but what's really valuable about it is we've been able to begin to control workload so that you actually can deliver high quality uniform services to all of the people that we represent.
A caseload is what? I said I'd go to Bill, but now what is it? What is a caseload? I mean, how do you measure it? Is it a day?
It's still high.
Year?
It's still too high, but it is manageable. It depends on the type of work you're doing.
But give people a perspective. I mean, are we talking hundreds? Are we talking thousands? Are we talking tens of thousands in a year?
Still hundreds of misdemeanors if that's the work that a lawyer is doing. Fewer, of course, felonies. The important thing is that we've gotten those within the maximum permissible limits under national standards. I know that's not exciting to most people, but how it plays out in the lives of the individuals we represent is a higher level of satisfaction, better outcomes, and that's good for everybody, the individual, their family, their communities, and the city at large.
Okay, Bill.
So during your tenure, Stephen, the Defender's Office began working in Memphis and Shelby County Juvenile Court.
Yes.
So as you leave, where is that transition at? Because you not only have to have more attorneys for that. Juvenile law is a very different kind of law than working in adult criminal court.
Right, right. Juvenile defense is a specialized practice of law. You know, kids just aren't little adults. It's different. Our lawyers, as we moved into this practice, the public defender hadn't represented kids in juvenile court for like 40 years until the Department of Justice agreement. And as we moved into that practice, we got to dive deep into some of the best thinking that's out there. So our lawyers have training in adolescent brain development. They know how to respond to kids that have seen more trauma than most of us can imagine. And to be able to move into that work, lawyers have the same ethical obligations to kids as we do to anyone else that we represent. And that is, I'm very proud of that piece of work. We're not done yet. There's a lot more work to do, but the community should be proud of what we've been able to build through the juvenile defender practice.
As you also leave, the incoming mayor has a big decision to make in terms of Justice Department oversight. Where do you think that should go? Because the outgoing mayor has been pretty upfront with the point that he believes that the oversight should end.
And we should clarify oversight of the juvenile court.
Right.
Right.
Well, I actually had a whole different view of the oversight. I have found it to be useful and helpful. You know, Mayor Luttrell and then County Attorney Kelly Rain, who structured this agreement, did it in such a way that kept us out of litigation. There is no consent decree. There is no federal hammer over what we're doing. What we were able to do instead was to turn our attention and resources toward building the right juvenile justice system for this community. So I think too much energy has been spent on trying to end the oversight instead of focusing on the work that still needs to be done. I think the oversight is valuable. One of the things about the agreement is that it has these 6-month intervals where the DOJ and the monitors keep coming back in to check and direct progress. And because of those, they anticipate that leadership changes. And you know, Mayor Luttrell has been clear that local leaders need to be engaged to solve these local problems. And I think this next generation of leadership needs the opportunity to step into that. We all know that county governments focus on things that are priorities, and I don't think the work is done. I hope the DOJ doesn't step out right now and that oversight continues, because that will keep the work important to this next generation of leaders, and we haven't finished the task.
What we've had Judge Dan Michaels from the juvenile court on the show 6 months ago or something. It's on the website, and he had a different perspective on this, just out of fairness. But from your point of view, one thing we talked about with with Dan, and we've talked with other people, Josh Spickler from Just City, which you were involved in setting up, and we've had this conversation with a lot of people, and you referenced it, handling juveniles differently. And part of that, it seems like everyone agrees in some fashion that every juvenile who gets picked up on a minor charge, they didn't go to school, loiter, I mean small stuff, right, that they shouldn't go to jail. That there should be some fashion of diversion. What doesn't seem always to be the same is, what is that diversion? What is that interim step that goes into place before a child is locked up in the juvenile jail? What, from your point of view, if you had the money and you had the authority, for those kids, minor offenses, picked up for delinquency, picked up for loitering, picked up on the corner for some small, very small thing, let's stay away from drug crime and violent crime and so on, what should happen with that child?
The juvenile justice system should always be the last resort. We know a lot about the impact of an encounter with the juvenile justice system. To answer your question, for the kid on the corner just being picked up, we have to find ways to keep those children from coming anywhere near the juvenile justice system. This isn't just juvenile justice, it's the American criminal justice system at large. We have to stop using the justice system as a blunt tool to try to address other complex problems in the community. There's a lot of talk about the Juvenile Assessment Center planning here. And I would like to be on record as being very cautious about that. Communities that have moved into juvenile assessment center strategies, it has no impact on addressing the problems we have with disproportionate minority contact, and actually can lead to dramatic net widening and bringing more and more kids in contact with the system.
So is part of it simply not picking up the kid on the street corner?
No,
is that I mean, is it a policing thing? And I'm not blaming that cop. I'm not doing that. But is it a strategy of policing that there should just be less contact between police and minor offenses?
Yeah, so here's the danger. If the police can pick a kid up and believe they're doing the right thing and doing their job by taking them to an assessment center quickly, that's going to incentivize that type of response, instead of doing the hard work of figuring out what's going on with that kid and doing everything you can to navigate them back to family and to support systems. We can't use the law enforcement and prosecution as the frontline response to kids being on the street.
Now let's turn the page and go to the scenario I put aside, which is the teenager, the 15, 16, 17-year-old who is accused of committing a violent crime, whether it's murder, whether it's some kind of assault, whether it's drug-related. It's what most people, and you don't have to agree with that, would consider a very serious felony-level crime. What is the proper approach with that child?
Okay, so this gets to the important and good work, the necessary work of a juvenile justice system to be able to respond to that type of serious behavior in a way that is both fair and developmentally appropriate and will lead to the right type of sanction or punishment, but to do it in a way that doesn't harm that child for the rest of his life.
Is that possible?
Yeah, it's possible.
Are there models around the country for? I'm trying to do a scenario that, and I hate to be awful, but a violent crime by a 17-year-old. Are there scenarios or are there models where that child, some 10, 15, however many years later, 5 years later, comes out and re-enters society successfully?
Absolutely. There's no one set model that fits everywhere. There is a lot of research. There's a lot of what we know about effectively responding to trauma. And juvenile court has been anchored to this idea of rehabilitation for 100 years now. There are absolutely things we can do through the state systems that are used to when children are committed to the care of the state. If we want to get really serious about that behavior, then we have to go all the way back. What we now know about the impact of toxic stress on kids from the point of conception all the way forward, that needs to be our focus. We're not going to make this a safer community by who we pick up and how we respond to bad behavior. Over the next 20, 30 years, we make it a safer, more prosperous community if we can get about the business of growing healthier children.
Bill.
Let's move back to the other side of the public defender's office work in the adult criminal justice system. Where do you think we are at the end of your term with that, with so much discussion about everything from suspended driver's licenses and the impacts that they have to what's happening in the Shelby County Jail? And it's not overcrowding to the degree we've seen it before, but certainly there are some concerns that the jail population is rising.
Oh, I would say that the jail population concerns may be the priority issue for the incoming mayor-elect and the incoming sheriff and the new leadership on the Board of County Commissioners. While it may not be as high as it's been before, the trajectory over the last 4 or 5 years, this could be the all-consuming, most expensive problem facing new leadership. So it does need to be a high priority as the new administration comes in. You know, physical arrests have been declining since 2014. We've seen fewer people arrested into the system, but they're staying longer, and the jail population has reached a critical level, no question.
So is this decisions that prosecutors are making, or is this just the way that the system overall works?
You know, prosecutors have a lot of discretion in how they choose to prosecute cases, but that's not the only factor. There are a lot of factors that are driving the dynamics between jail population. And it's very simplest. It's two things: the number of people arrested and how long they stay. and we need to look closely at the complex drivers behind that. There are a lot of solutions that have been laid in front of the county through this, the MacArthur Foundation Safety and Justice work here, but we haven't had the right leadership to be able to do anything with them. There should be a focus on bail reform, and Just City's been involved in highlighting this problem. There are things we can do. No one should be in the jail just because they're too poor to post a low bond. Jail, where people are before they are tried and convicted or acquitted, needs to be reserved for people who are too dangerous to be released.
Because the correlation, and then I'll go back to Bill, the low bail, the presumption is that it's not a violent criminal, it's not someone who's a danger to society?
That's
is that
right.
the correlation?
It's just, well, first, and we don't have time to unpack it here, cash bail is, doesn't work. You can be the most dangerous person in the world, and if you can afford to make bail, you're out. But if you are poor, you're not. And the vast majority of people in our jail waiting for their day in court are poor. There are better options.
The vast majority have committed misdemeanors?
Misdemeanors is a significant flow into the jail. That's probably not the area that's driving your jail population right now. You need to be looking at your in-custody felony detainees. The number of people who have been in the jail for more than 500 days has doubled over the last year.
And about how many people is that? And then I'll go, a couple hundred?
I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but
under 1,000?
What's interesting to me is that the Public Defender's Office only represents 22, 23, 24% of those individuals. The rest of them are represented by private attorneys, many of them appointed counsel. There are things that we can do, but there's no low-hanging fruit. These are difficult problems that will require people diving in deep to do the hard work to get to the solutions.
Back to Bill, 10 minutes left.
And we're talking about people staying in that system too long, but for far different reasons than with juveniles in the juvenile system. But the city has a historic problem with violent crime, and a lot of times people will say the only solution to that is to keep these people from harming other people.
And who is in jail should be driven by that type of risk. That if someone poses that type of risk to the community, that person should be in jail.
And they're not at this point in all
Many
cases?
of them are, but it is a matter of wealth, not risk, that drives that.
Your office also, and you brought this up, if there is a case where your office is representing one defendant in that case, and there may be 3 or 4 co-defendants, your office then, because of our criminal procedures, cannot represent the others because that would be a conflict.
Yeah, that's been based on how we've been traditionally structured, there have been limits on how you can use your public defense system. There are other models in other places, and some of the recommendations that were before the General Assembly and that may be coming in this next cycle could offer other solutions to broaden how we use our systems for public defense.
Something like a firewall between the different defenders?
There are single agency models. There was a proposal that we thought was coming forward this year to create a conflict defender office here. We need to make sure that people aren't languishing in jail. Everyone needs their day in court. And for people who have committed serious and violent offenses, there's no reason for anyone to be in jail for more than 500 days without having an opportunity for their day in court.
What is the Jericho Project?
The Jericho Project is some work that is approaching its 20th anniversary. Actually, this grew out of the last Department of Justice engagement with the jail. And it was our effort to represent people who were cycling through the criminal justice system who live with serious mental illness, to represent them the way people of means are represented.
Which means what?
Really good lawyering, tied to the ability to access important supports and services in the community. We know how to turn on Social Security. We know how to navigate Medicaid. We know how to navigate housing. And we've been able to put together plans for individuals who, once they are stable enough and willing to engage, can actually have dramatic positive results. It's gotten a lot of accolades over the years, and even an award from the American Association of Prosecuting Attorneys.
And you were instrumental. You're being a little bit modest. This was your project.
Yeah, Mayor Wharton was chief public defender at the time. Mayor Luttrell was sheriff at the time, and there was a lot of cross-line support for figuring out how to do this. And I've been amazed at the success of it. It's low cost. It's a different model than specialty courts, and high impact. And what we should take from those learnings is that there are ways that the justice system can become a full partner in the public health cycle of care. And future leadership should pick up on the lessons learned from Jericho.
Bill references someone we've talked about before any number of times on the show with the Just City folks, with the Harold Collins from Operation Safe Community, former city councilman. The role of fines. I think that nationally, or maybe it's just my awakening to it, but you see more and more that fines that perhaps you and I would sort of be annoyed to pay for expired license, a couple $100s or something,
right,
that add up for the working poor, for people for whom that is an insurmountable dollar amount, who end up in jail. What should be done about how fines are assessed? For, again, we're talking low-level offenders, low-level offenses like broken taillights, expired licenses. What should that approach be versus how it is now?
We should fundamentally rethink using the justice system as creating revenue streams for other things. It doesn't work. It really doesn't work in communities that are as poor, who are trying to grapple with intractable poverty as we are in Memphis. This is one of the things that Just City's been successful at shining a light on. And not just Just City alone, but with partners like Baker Donaldson. They challenged a change in the state law regarding driver's licenses and suspending them because of unpaid court costs. And
the time it takes. Josh Spickler from Just City will point out, Harold will point out, the time it takes to go and get those things taken care of when you've got an hourly job that you might get fired from missing.
So this is what I would challenge new leadership to do. Look at the amount of money on the books. It's uncollectible. It's never going to be collected. It's pennies on the dollar. Look at what it costs to maintain the books and start rethinking whether or not we need to be focusing on cost, fees, and fines.
You talk about new leadership. That would be, those kinds of things could be done by what, county commission, by city council, or does it take the state legislature to do it?
Both. Local justice policy is driven by local decisions and state decisions, not federal. And that's one of the reasons that I think Just City is so important to this community, that there's an independent voice that's shining a light on important justice issues. What they've done to highlight the problem of girls being held in state penitentiaries until they have their day in court is incredibly important. What they've done to shine a light on the importance of expungement, to clear the record of people, to begin to reduce the lifetime consequences of one bump against the system. These are the types of things that we have to do in this community if we are going to be able to grapple with this intractable, multi-generational poverty.
You mentioned the leadership. I'm going to take just a couple minutes at the end here. Last week's show we taped on Thursday. The election was Thursday night. And give Bill maybe a quick walkthrough of some of the results of the election. Probably most people have read them, but also what's on the ballot, because we're not done. There's yet another election day coming up in November. What's on that ballot and who will be running?
All right, the August 2nd elections, a new county mayor was elected. That was going to be the case. That person is Lee Harris, the Democratic nominee.
Who will be coming on the show next week, actually.
Who will be on the show next week. And we also have 8 new Shelby County commissioners, and we also have an 8-vote Democratic majority on the county commission as a result of an election in which Democrats swept every countywide office on the ballot. Much different results than the last 2 elections in this cycle.
Before you go to the next, they will be seated in January?
No, September 1st.
Like I said,
everybody
September?
begins their term of office for it. And the next election is the November 6th election. The folks that you voted for in the state and federal primaries are on the ballot for their general election in November 6th. The race for governor will be decided between the 2 nominees and other independent contenders there. The U.S. Senate seat that Bob Corker is leaving is on there. All 14 of the state House seats covering Shelby County, 3 of the 5 state Senate seats that cover Shelby County, and just for fun, 3 charter amendments to the city charter.
Do you want to try to name off those city charter amendments, or should we not go there?
Let's not go there.
Okay, let's not go there. People should go and look those up. But we want to make sure we touched on that. And again, we look forward to having incoming County Mayor Lee Harris next week. Again, as we said at the top of the show, the Lee Harris will nominate your successor. The County Commission will vote on that. you've talked a little bit about what you would like to see those folks do. You've talked a lot about what you'd like to see those folks pursue. But what is next for you after 27 years in the public defender's office?
I have only made one commitment for after I step down, and that's to my wife, that I would take a sabbatical. I grew up in a clergy family. My dad's an Episcopal priest, and every 7 years we force our priests to go and take a sabbatical, and he would come back rested and rejuvenated, and I am looking forward to that time. I am proud to leave to Mayor Harris and other leaders a well-functioning law firm full of dedicated professionals, many of whom were students of Professor, Senator, Mayor-elect Harris. So I think the future is bright as this work moves forward. I
hadn't thought about that, because Mayor Wharton, and I think Kelly Rain, who you mentioned, the former county attorney, she got involved with public defense and all these kind of things because she was a student of Wharton's, I believe, at Ole Miss, right? I think I have that right.
A lot of our alumni have moved forward to do all sorts of good and important work, and we've been able to recruit some of the finest young lawyers from schools across the country. Yale, NYU, Chicago, Northwestern, but also the best and brightest from the University of Memphis. There's a lot of talent there, and I look forward to seeing what they do.
Thank you for being here. Sorry to cut you off. Thank you, Bill, and thank you for joining us. Join us again next week.